The Chicago Sky are set for a rematch against the New York Liberty, a team in which Elena Smith said the Liberty should be scared to face the Sky again. We're going to talk about that matchup, plus go around the W and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky and WNBA related, and we are going to jump right into it. So, as we know, the Chicago Sky are losing Christine Anigwe for an extended period of time, so they're going to be even more shorthanded than what they were before, which means they're going to have to rely on their forwards and Elena Smith, Robin Parks to really hold down that Sika Kone as well, who's going to need to be a big part as they face a team that they came down to the wire to. It took the best player in the WNBA in Breanna Stewart to hit a game-clinching shot to put them over the Chicago Sky in the last game. Now, while this Chicago Sky team has been shorthanded since the season began, we have not had Isabel Harrison since the season, and we've lost a player almost every game after that point. 6 games into the season, the Chicago Sky sit at 3-3, the 7th best record in the WNBA, and we haven't played our best basketball yet. Now, that could be said about most teams at this point in the season. They haven't played their best basketball yet. But the Chicago Sky have barely scratched the surface of what they can do offensively. And even in that loss against the New York Liberty, it seems like the Sky have taken a lot of confidence away from that loss. Like I said at the opening, Elena Smith saying, if I were them, I'd be worried to play us again. Right? And that's coming off Elena Smith having a perfect shooting game, going 7-7 from the field for 18 points. And that's it, right? She went 5-5 on opening night against the Minnesota Lynx. And so this team is starting to hit its offensive stride. And that is the biggest thing with this team is them hitting that offensive stride. We've seen what they can be defensively. We've seen this team and how well they can dig in and lock in defensively and rebound the ball as well. Even in that last game against the New York Liberty, we out-rebounded them by, I believe, double digits, if not that close to double digits. This Chicago Sky's team heart is what puts them in most games and the execution that they have, and we're starting to see what that chemistry between Marina Mabrey and Kahleah Copper can bring to this team. And if we get Courtney Williams going as well on top of that, I tell you what, the sky is truly the limit for this team and what they can ultimately achieve, right? And considering all the doubt around this team, the doubt around James Wade and giving up as much as he gave for Marina Mabrey, the doubt on rebuilding this team on the fly and what this team lost last season, when you look at missing 5 key players to our rotation last season and then look at what we've lost as well as injury, James Wade has been a tough team and a team that is really indicative of the type of teams we like in the city of Chicago. And so because of that, this is a Chicago team that is going to come in and will go into New York and try their best to win this game. They are going to have to execute. And kind of the keys that I had to the last game still maintain true in this game. It's simple. You have to execute. You have to give that consistent effort in that fight and have that dog in you, which this team does. Elena Smith and Morgan Birch as well, when she was healthy, right, before she went down with injury, have stepped up and filled that Ema Mieseman role in a major way, right? And I love the minutes that Elena Smith is giving the Chicago Sky team on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. And Elizabeth Williams, we already know, that is our defensive anchor. So much of what we do defensively hinges on Elizabeth Williams and her ability to protect the rim, rebound the ball, play great on-man defense, and then on top of that, the scoring, when she gets out in transition, when she gets those rebounds offensively, right? And I will even like to see the Sky use her a little bit more in the half-court offense, and I think that that's coming as well. Kahleah Copper having her best season, her best game of the season, last game against the New York Liberty, really stepping up when the lights were on against the super team in the WNBA. We saw all of that, right? We saw Marina Mabrey flash that every little bit of just how great she is scoring-wise, but also you're being able to tell that she is really figuring out these players, this new team a little bit better as well, and being able to really dish the ball off. I love how she's growing as a playmaker with this team, right? We already knew she was a playmaker coming in. And so overall, today against the New York Liberty, which goes down at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Chicago time, this is a game in which the Sky can continue to just build, right? This is another measuring stick game as the last one was. Now, I'm not predicting a win, especially considering how shorthanded the Chicago Sky are, but at least they now have a blueprint of the level of effort that they need to give to be able to be in these games against the best players in this league. And And we just need to see that. And one thing that I said in last post game that I'm going to bring into this one as well, I really want to see James Wade allow Courtney Williams to operate more in that mid-range, especially if you have Elena Smith and Marina Mabry shooting the threes that they do. We know Kalia Copper's a slasher as well, but I really like I really should say I think that part of what we're seeing from Courtney Williams, just even though she hit a big shot, a huge shot in the last game, but not having the scoring output or the efficiency that we're used to seeing from her, is because James Wade tasked her at the beginning of the season with not shooting as much of the mid-range and shooting more threes. And while we know basketball in general across every league is going more three-point heavy, I would kind of like to see Courtney Williams be able to go back to what kind of is familiar to her, because I think that that's how she can impact the offensive side of the ball more, and we can become a more efficient offensive team on top of that. Now, again, everything isn't going to be perfect. We know that, right? We're going to go through our growing pains of the season, especially now where we have as many players out with injuries we do. But this Chicago Sky team just continues to impress us, and it's turned so many heads in what they've done already on this season. And we just got to continue it. That's what we have to continue, and we have to grow. Like I said, the defense, we play great defense. We play that level of defense that is going to be the defense that allows this team to surprise some people in the playoffs. And considering this is one of the longest, if not the longest WNBA season with 40 games on tap today, we have 34 more games to go in this season. So I got to get through the All-Star break, and hopefully we start getting some of these players back. Like I said, don't really know. Rebecca Gardner, Isabel Harrison is going to miss an extended amount of time. If she does come back, it's probably going to be more towards the end of the season. Morgan Birch, everything that James Wade has kind of said, I think she's going to be out this whole week, and then next week was probably when we'll see her again. But if this team can continue to get healthy, continue to play, continue to improve offensively, the sky is the limit for us. The sky is truly the limit, and I don't just say that because of the punness of it all. I say it because I truly believe it, and that's what this team has shown, right? So after today, we get another day off, and then we're right back Tuesday against the Fever, which you can't overlook the Fever. You can overlook no team in the WNBA, but they can't overlook that game either before they face the Sparks and then the Las Vegas Aces. But tonight is going to be another big test for James Wade coaching, how this team adjusts after getting to see the New York Liberty and playing them down to the wire in last game. But I'm expecting the Sky to continue to show out and play really, really well for us. And hopefully the city of Chicago rides with us. Let me know your thoughts on this game. What are some of your predictions? What are some of your keys to the game? Do you think, like me, kind of all hinges on the execution offensively and playing great defense? Or do you think it's going to be something else? Do you think Kalia Copper matches her season high in 20 points again tonight against the same team, the New York Liberty, and that the Sky may be able to learn for some things and actually win tonight? Let me know your thoughts and your predictions down below. But now we want to go around the W and talk about things, and we just have two topics to talk about. The Las Vegas Aces are undefeated, and they have broke now a franchise record. It's crazy to think that right now the Las Vegas Aces 5-0 record, the best start in their franchise history, right? And they also scored over 90 points for the fifth straight game, extending a record that they already own in the WNBA. The Aces have been everything that they were expected to be coming into this season. Everything. It's the hype is real. And just like I said with all other teams, and I have to be fair in this, even though I want to throw some slight towards the Aces, they have really honestly measured up to everything that you expect from them, and the sky is still the limit. They have barely begun to scratch that surface, right? When you look at kind of teams that have separated themselves in the WNBA, the Aces, the Sun, and the Liberty, right? The Aces undefeated with 5 wins, the Connecticut Sun 5-1, and the New York Liberty 4-1, which should have been 3-2, but we'll talk about that at a different day. The Las Vegas Aces are shaping up to be that powerhouse that everyone kind of expected them to be coming into the season. And so A'ja Wilson has already said, we're grinding out wins, but we're putting ourselves in situations that we don't need to. So even looking at that, and she even says that they're getting teams' best now, and the playoffs haven't even started. To start the season, teams are giving their best effort against the Las Vegas Aces because they know what that could mean for their season. The Aces are living up to the hype, and we're going to see if it eventually fizzes out. But really, until we see a chink in that armor, it's kind of hard not to predict them to be the ones holding up the trophy when it's all said and done and being the WNBA champions yet again. This team is rock and rolling. I'll tell you what, it's beautiful basketball to watch on top of that. If you actually watch these games, the way that the Las Vegas Aces are playing, it's been great. And yes, they've had to grind out some wins. Yes, they've taken some punches to the face, but they've adapted well. And this team is still congealing and coming together, and that's what makes it so dangerous. That is really what makes this team so dangerous, that sometimes you see super teams come together and it takes a minute for them to work it out. But because they basically just added Candace Parker to a team that was already the WNBA champions, man, it's going to look like it's going to be a tall test to knock out the Las Vegas Aces. But as we know in this league, teams adapt, and they adapt over time, and they start learning your tendencies and learning what they can do. And it's a copycat league. All it's going to take is a couple of teams to have success against the Las Vegas Aces, and then we're going to start seeing that copied by other teams and built upon, and then we'll see what it ends up shaping up to be in the playoffs. Now, on the flip side of the Las Vegas Aces being 5-0, we have the Minnesota Lynx that up until yesterday were actually winless. Now, they did win their game yesterday, so shout out to them for coming in and winning a game that was needed for them to win, right? But I tell you what, the Minnesota Lynx are having a rough go over, and it was kind of expected to be a rough season, but they took and pushed the team, or they defeated the team in the Washington Mystics that I like the Mystics team overall. The Lynx are now 1-6 on the season. 1-6 on the season. Now, yes, it's a young season. They have 33 games left to play, but it's been a lot of struggle there. And the Lynx have some talent on that roster as well, but we knew this was going to kind of be one of those years where they were going to have to rebuild. They have a lot to look at. They have a lot to kind of figure out. Dorcas started in that game as well. She goes 2 of 6 with 7 points in that game. McBride leads the way with 24 points, but is this going to be something that starts turning the tide for the Minnesota Lynx? We'll end up seeing, right? I like I said, while I do like some of the pieces of this Minnesota Lynx team, we knew it was going to be a rough go for them to come into the season, and that's been proven. And so we have two teams, in the Aces and the Lynx, on the opposite side of things right now. And we'll see how the season continues to progress. But, man, I tell you what, I'm sure glad that we're now talking about the Chicago Sky being 1-6 on the season. But that's it. That's my time for today, guys. I'll be back today for a post-game show after the Sky face off against the Liberty. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're on the podcast side, go and subscribe over to YouTube. If you're on the YouTube side, go and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a rate and review there as well on either places. But that is it. You can follow me at CEO Haize. You can follow the show at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky related and WNBA related. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.